The sound went first, swallowed by wind and shock. Then came the fall. Metal screamed, ground rising like a fist, and the world reduced to breath and grit. She remembered the taste of dust, the heat bleeding through armor, the rotor's fading echo somewhere behind her. They said the mission was over, that survival was luck, but she never believed in luck. Only control. The discipline to breathe when others panic. The patience to move when silence is safer than sound. Because endurance isn't noise, it's precision, earned through pain and restraint. Subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because this wasn't about surviving the crash, it was about what you discover when the world finally goes quiet. 0600 hours. The fog sits low over Camp Pendleton, rolling off the Pacific like slow breath against the razor wire. A single bus idles at the perimeter gate, its exhaust drifting upward and vanishing into gray. Captain Elise Ward steps down, boots striking the pavement with the weight of memory more than fatigue. The air smells of salt and metal familiar, unyielding. She pauses at the gate. The sentry checks her ID without comment, his posture precise, his tone neutral. Beyond him, the compound unfolds in ordered silence barracks, armory, the low hum of generators. The sound of cadence echoes faintly somewhere in the distance. Young recruits moving through morning drills. For them, the day is beginning. For her, it feels like returning to a story that refused to end. Her left hand flexes unconsciously as she adjusts her pack, the faint tremor, legacy of an injury that ended her last deployment. The brace beneath her sleeve presses tight against the scar. It no longer hurts, but it remembers. She does too. The walk to the headquarters is deliberate, almost ceremonial. Concrete stretches long between buildings washed in pale light. The Marine Corps flag snaps against the masthead, the only movement breaking the calm. Inside the admin office, fluorescent lights hum. The air is colder here, controlled, precise, sterile. A clipboard slides across the counter. Her name already printed, her new assignment already decided. No fanfare, no welcome. Just another return to duty. Captain Elise Ward, Combat Instructor, Ground Combat Element School. Reassigned for evaluation and retraining. She signs without hesitation. The ink bleeds slightly through the form. Her signature looks too steady for what it carries. Outside, she passes the drill field where platoons form under the watch of younger instructors. Their voices carry clipped, confident, alive with energy. She watches the movement, squared shoulders, synchronized steps, rifles angled at perfect degrees, precision, control. It's what she was known for, what she still is. Yet beneath the rhythm of command, she senses the quiet shift in eyes that follow her recognition mixed with speculation. Rumors travel faster than radio traffic. The return of a wounded officer is never just administrative. To some, she's proof of endurance. To others, a question of capability. She feels the weight of both as she walks the perimeter of the training bay. The mats are rolled and stacked. The air still carries the ghost of sweat and rubber. She stops before the wall of portraits instructors past and present the unbroken lineage of authority. Her own photo is there. Older frame, younger eyes. She stands before it for a long moment, neither proud nor nostalgic, simply observant. The version of herself in that image had believed battlefields ended overseas. The day builds slowly. The fog thins. Sunlight cuts across the asphalt in hard white lines. Recruits run by in formation, boots striking rhythm on the ground. She watches them with the detached precision of an evaluator, each stride uniform, each breath measured. She knows this discipline knows its purpose, knows how it conceals fear, pride, and doubt all the same. At the edge of the field, she kneels, adjusting a training dummy's harness. The straps are stiff, the sandbags heavy. Her movements are deliberate, nothing wasted, nothing uncertain. Still, there's a flicker beneath the surface, a restlessness not born of weakness but of waiting. This place is built on silence and command. Both are weapons. She has wielded them before. She will again. As the morning bleeds into midday, she stands beneath the flagpole, gaze fixed on the horizon where fog and ocean blur into one pale line. The battles behind her had clear enemies, clear orders, clear ends. This one, this quiet return, offers none of that. It demands something harder: control, restraint, the discipline to face judgment without reaction. The hum of the bass deepens around her, the rhythm of another training cycle beginning. She exhales once, steady, letting the air leave her like surrender and resolve entwined. The war, she realizes, is not over. It has only changed shape. And in this silence, this place that calls itself peace, she understands what her next fight will be. Not against an enemy, but against doubt itself. Her weapon composure, her battlefield every room she enters, her command never to lose control. 0800 hours. Inside the combative's bay. The air hangs thick with humidity and rubber. Rows of recruits move in rhythm under the glare of fluorescent lights, bodies striking pads with the sharp percussion of discipline. The floor vibrates with impact, boots and bare feet alternating on the mats. Sweat darkens uniforms, catching the light in streaks. Captain Elise Ward stands at the edge of the formation, posture precise, hands clasped behind her back. Her gaze moves deliberately, measuring form, posture, control. Every motion on the mat tells a story, a hesitation, a pattern, a lesson still unfinished. Her silence carries authority. It doesn't need to compete with the noise. Across the bay, Gunnery Sergeant Blake Moran commands the room with volume. His presence is all sound and motion, barked cadence, fists clapping against recruits' shoulders, the echo of his voice pushing against walls already vibrating with effort. The Marines respond to him instinctively. His energy fills the space. His authority is earned through presence. For Elise, presence is precision. For him, it's pressure. The difference hums beneath the surface, not open defiance, but the slow current of competition. Each correction she makes lands like a soft contradiction to his command. Each pause he enforces carries the faint edge of challenge. Recruits notice, though none will say it aloud. In the space between instruction, the gym breathes the hiss of air vents, the creak of mats, the faint metallic click of wall-mounted fans turning above. Elise walks the line of trainees, movements economical. Her voice measured and clear. Discipline is timing. She says not loud, but the kind of tone that carries. It's not for the recruits as much as for the room itself. Blake watches her from across the mats, a smirk tugging briefly at the edge of control. He's the kind who teaches through dominance demonstration by power, not precision. His lessons are physical, immediate, unquestioned. By 0900, the recruits are split into groups. Close quarters battle drills, controlled sparring, one-on-one engagements under supervision. Elise oversees 2 pairs near the corner, while Blake leads the central ring. His voice cuts through every other sound. You hesitate, you lose, you overthink, you fall. She studies him, not with disapproval, but with calculation, the measured gaze of someone taking note of patterns before they matter. The recruits emulate him fast, forceful, reactive. Their technique grows louder, but less controlled. The noise is confidence without structure. When she steps onto the mat beside him, the recruits fall silent out of instinct. There's no announcement, no challenge, just 2 instructors occupying the same space. The balance of authority compresses the air. Even the hum of the lights seems louder. He nods toward her with performative courtesy. She returns it, minimal but exact. Then he gestures to one of the recruits, a nervous Marine barely out of boot camp, to demonstrate a takedown. The Marine hesitates, unsure which instructor to follow. Blake waves him forward, impatient, then calls her into the demonstration. She steps closer, calm, composed. The mat beneath her boots squeaks faintly. They circle, The recruits watch with wide, disciplined stillness. Blake's movements are fast, assertive, the kind meant to prove a point. Elise counters with economy, blocking and redirecting, each motion designed to teach control. It's not a contest, but to him, it is. Then, it happens. A misjudged shift in footing, or perhaps something sharper, and Blake's elbow drives into her face with the force of a hammer. Not a glancing blow. Not accidental enough to forget. The sound is wet and immediate. Then silence. Every recruit freezes. The impact hangs in the air longer than it should. Blood beads at the edge of her lip before falling in a slow drop onto the mat. The room is still. No one breathes. Elise doesn't step back. Doesn't speak. Her head turns slightly, the motion deliberate. Her eyes meet his steady, unbroken. She wipes the blood with the back of her wrist, the gesture surgical, controlled. Then she straightens her posture. No anger, no reaction, just precision. Blake's stance falters for half a second, the smallest fracture in command. His smirk vanishes, replaced by a flash of uncertainty that looks almost like regret, though not quite. Around them, recruits shift uneasily, eyes darting between them and the senior instructors along the wall. She nods once, as if closing a lesson, then steps off the mat. The movement is clean, professional, absolute. The authority in her silence is heavier than any reprimand. Outside the ring, she retrieves a towel, pressing it lightly against her mouth. Blood seeps through white cotton, staining it, rust red. She looks at it for a moment, detached. Clinical, then folds it once and sets it aside. The drills resume, but quieter now. The rhythm of boots and strikes no longer syncs perfectly. The recruit's energy is different, wary, thoughtful, uncertain where the line of respect truly lies. Blake continues instruction, his voice lower now, the sharpness softened. The confidence hasn't left him, but its shape has changed. Elise remains by the wall, arms crossed, eyes following every motion on the floor. Her silence has become the dominant sound in the room. By 09:30, the session concludes. Recruits file out, sweat-darkened uniforms clinging to their backs. No one speaks. Elise stays behind. The bay is empty except for the echo of the last door closing. She kneels to wipe the mat where blood had fallen one small motion. Deliberate, ritualistic. The towel leaves no trace. Control restored, order reclaimed. The hum of the fluorescent lights fills the silence again. She exhales once, not defeat. Not anger, just breath released from tension. The undercurrent remains, unseen, but alive. Respect has shifted. The war has begun, and her weapon is restraint. 4:30 hours. The base is still asleep, save for the low hum of the ventilation system and the occasional clatter of a distant door. Inside the locker room, the fluorescent lights hum to life, washing the space in sterile white. Captain Elise Ward stands before the mirror, her reflection sharp against the polished metal. The bruise beneath her left eye has darkened overnight deep violet, bordered by fading yellow. She studies it for a moment without vanity or self-pity, only recognition. It is evidence, not of defeat, but of the silence she has chosen to weaponize. She removes her uniform jacket with precision, folding it across the bench. Her hands are steady. The mirror reflects discipline refined into stillness. No tremor, no doubt. The faint ache behind her eye pulses in rhythm with the overhead lights. She breathes once, evenly, then opens the protocol binder on the bench. Its pages are worn at the edges, marked with ink and margin notes, training procedures, safety parameters, command oversight guidelines. Every rule is a blade, she thinks, and today she will wield them all. Outside, the sky is just beginning to lighten. The bay doors of the combatives' hall yawn open to the coastal fog. Inside, mats stretch in clean geometry scrubbed. Reset. Waiting. The scent of disinfectant lingers beneath the deeper odor of sweat and rubber. Rows of folded blindfolds rest on a metal cart beside a clipboard and whistle. The binder sits at the head table. Open to CQB Phase 4, Sensory Deprivation Drill. By 0500, recruits file in, silent but alert. The memory of yesterday's incident still hums in the air, unspoken but alive. Gunnery Sergeant Blake Moran enters last, jaw tight, voice louder than necessary as he gives instructions. His command feels forced this morning, as though volume could drown discomfort. Elise watches from the periphery, expression unreadable. She wears the bruise without concealment. It does not shame her. It marks the starting line. The training officer calls for demonstration volunteers. Elise steps forward before he finishes. Blake's eyes flick toward her surprise, faint irritation. He hesitates for half a breath, then nods stiffly. Captain Ward will run the blindfold sequence. The officer confirms. The recruits shift, uncertain. She retrieves one of the blindfolds from the cart, holding it for a moment in her hands, rough canvas, faint smell of chalk. The sound of the fabric tightening around her head echoes softly through the bay. Vision disappears. The world reduces to sound, breath, and proximity. Silence expands. Her senses adjust, air moving across the floor vents, rubber mats compressing beneath shifting weight, the slow intake of someone watching too closely. At the signal, she moves. The first sound, a footstep, right side. She pivots sharply, body coiled, intercepts the motion before contact. The impact lands light, controlled, redirecting rather than striking. A breath escapes the recruit who tried to test her. She resets. Another sound, a shift in air pressure behind her shoulder. She drops her weight, catches a wrist, and turns with mechanical precision. The motion is neither aggressive nor theatrical. It is regulation embodied, clean as a command line. Each move flows into the next, every reaction anticipatory without haste. The room watches in stillness. Recruits who once laughed under breath now stand rigid, transfixed. The rhythmic slap of contact against mats becomes a kind of metronome. Blake crosses his arms. His jaw works silently. Elise continues blindfolded, centered, unyielding. Her breathing remains even, audible between strikes. Each sequence reinforces what she already knows, that control is power, and power does not raise its voice. The final test begins, two recruits approaching simultaneously. One lunges, the other hesitates, caught between courage and caution. She senses both. With minimal force, she redirects one and neutralizes the other, using momentum against them. Neither hit the mat hard enough to bruise. Her precision leaves no room for accusation. When the whistle sounds, the hall is silent. Elise stops mid-motion, blindfold still in place, chest rising and falling with calm rhythm. Her hands drop slowly to her sides. The whistle echoes once more, distant, final. She removes the blindfold. The light hits her face, the bruise vivid against pale skin, sweat tracing clean lines down her temple. Her eyes adjust, meeting the gaze of every Marine in the room. The recruits stand frozen, posture unconsciously straighter than before. Blake's confidence, once palpable, now feels smaller, undefined. No one speaks. No one needs to. She walks to the binder, flips the page back to its cover, and signs the day's entry demonstration completed, compliant with training standards. The pen leaves a faint groove across the paper. She closes it gently, aligning it square to the table's edge. Across the room, Blake's reflection appears faintly in the plexiglass window, his shoulders set, his stance uncertain. He had expected retaliation, a confrontation, something loud enough to equal the blow he'd given her. Instead, she offered precision, and it was louder than anything he could have said. The recruits begin clearing equipment, silent except for the soft drag of mats across the floor. Elise remains at the head of the room until the last one leaves. The space empties gradually, sound returning in small echoes, the squeak of sneakers, the clink of a dropped water bottle, the final hum of the lights settling overhead. She stands alone for a moment longer. The silence feels earned now, no longer heavy but measured. The bruise remains, but it no longer defines her. It records something greater: restraint, proof of endurance sharpened into authority. Through the high windows, morning light breaks through the fog, cutting long white lines across the mats. Dust motes drift in the beams, moving slow and deliberate, like the air itself has chosen to stand at attention. Elise breathes once the same steady breath that begins every drill, every mission, every day she has survived. She gathers her jacket from the bench, slipping it on with careful precision. The Marine Corps patch catches the light for a moment before shadow swallows it again. She steps outside into the cold air. The sound of cadence echoes faintly from the distance, a reminder that the rhythm of the Corps continues, endless and exact. Behind her, the combative's bay stands immaculate, no trace of spectacle, no sign of conflict, just the echo of quiet mastery left in her wake. Today, discipline had not merely restrained power, it had become it. And through that stillness, Captain Elise Ward had reclaimed command not through force, but through the perfect, unyielding weight of control. 900 hours. The briefing room hums with quiet machinery, a steady pulse of electronics, air vents, and the faint tick of an analog clock mounted above the door. The blinds are drawn halfway, diffusing sunlight into muted gray stripes across the conference table. The chairs are filled, uniforms crisp, postures rigid. No one speaks louder than necessary. At the head of the table sits Major Carter, his expression fixed in professional calm. To his right, the battalion sergeant major. To his left, the training operations officer. The chain of command forms an unbroken wall of authority, but beneath the surface there's a shared awareness that this review is not just administrative, it's a test of judgment. On the far end of the room, Captain Elise Ward sits alone. Her uniform is immaculate, the bruise under her left eye fading to a pale shadow. Hands folded, she remains motionless except for the slow rhythm of her breathing. The light catches the brass of her rank insignia, gleaming softly like a mark of quiet defiance. A monitor flickers to life at the front of the room, grainy security footage, time-stamped from the combative's bay 2 days prior. The hum of the projector fills the silence as the playback begins. No one moves. The screen shows routine training at first rows of recruits, paired drills, controlled engagement. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly through the speakers. Gunnery Sergeant Blake Moran commands the session with visible force, his gestures sharp, his presence commanding. Elise stands at the edge of the mat, posture calm, observing. The footage is sterile, almost clinical, but the undercurrent is unmistakable. Two styles of leadership colliding beneath procedure, frame by frame. Tension builds. Elise steps onto the mat. The recruits fall silent. The sound of Blake's instruction sharpens tone, clipped, forceful. He gestures for demonstration. The sequence unfolds in slow inevitability. Then the elbow. The blow lands clean, brutal, unguarded. The room in the footage freezes. The room watching the footage freezes with it. Elise's head snaps back. The mat absorbs her movement. She steadies herself, wipes her lip, stands. No words, no retaliation, only control. Major Carter leans back slightly, his jaw tightening. The sergeant major exhales through his nose, the sound quiet but deliberate. Someone clicks a pen and sets it down. The projector hum grows louder, as if filling the room with what no one dares to say. The footage continues the aftermath, the silence, the recruits' uncertain stares. Elise walks off the mat, composure unbroken. The file cuts to the next day, the blindfold drill. The transformation is stark. She moves with surgical precision, every motion within regulation, every reaction flawless. The recruits' faces reflect awe, confusion, and recognition, an unspoken acknowledgement of authority redefined. She demonstrates mastery without aggression, restraint without weakness. The playback slows. The sound of contact measured. Intentional replaces the previous day's violence. Her silence becomes a language of command. Major Carter's gaze never leaves the screen. When it ends, the room stays dark for several seconds longer than necessary. The faint static hiss fills the space between judgment and understanding. He finally reaches for the remote, pausing the final frame. Elise standing center mat, blindfold removed, eyes steady, bruise visible beneath the light. The projector hums, the image flickers, the silence thickens. Carter's hand rests on the table still, deliberate. His voice, when it comes, is even not verdict, not praise, just clarity. The officers exchange measured glances. The decision is wordless but understood. Authority has seen itself reflected not in dominance, but in control. Blake sits 3 seats down, spine straight, hands locked together. His eyes are fixed on the table. Sweat beads faintly at his temple. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The footage has already said everything. A note-taker types quietly, the sound of keys marking the rhythm of consequence. Each word entered becomes official record review completed. Captain Ward demonstrated composure and adherence to regulation under provocation. Corrective action recommended for Gunnery Sergeant Moran conduct unbecoming instructional standards. The phrasing is neutral. The meaning is not. When the meeting adjourns, chairs scrape softly against tile. The chain of command disperses in order of rank precise, procedural, detached. Paperwork moves from one folder to another. The projector hum dies slowly, replaced by the sound of doors closing one by one. Elise remains seated. The room empties until only she and the flickering monitor remain. The screen, now black, reflects her face faintly, an inverted image framed by shadows. Her eyes linger on it, seeing not herself, but the weight of what control costs. There is no celebration, no applause, no vindictive satisfaction. Only confirmation that integrity, when tested, leaves its mark quietly. She gathers her notes, stands, and aligns the chair back to its exact position. Her hand rests on the table for a moment, fingers tracing the faint vibration still left from the projector's hum. It feels like an echo of judgment, of endurance, of something finally set right. Through the half-open blinds, light shifts across the floor, stretching toward her boots. Dust drifts in the beams, silent particles suspended in still air. Outside, the base hums with routine. Commands are shouted, trucks move, recruits march. The machine of the Corps turns, as it always has. But something subtle has shifted in its current. Respect, once claimed through volume, now carries her name in silence. In the hallway, she passes Blake. The corridor narrows between them, white walls, sterile air, fluorescent buzz. He slows but does not speak. His salute comes late, hesitant, but it comes. She returns it, precise and steady, then continues forward without pause. By 1000 hours. The briefing room is empty again. The projector has cooled. The last note of the meeting is filed into the system, electronic, impersonal, permanent. Captain Elise Ward exits into the sunlight. The bruise is fading fast now, its edges dissolving into skin tone. What remains is the memory of restraint turned into proof, the quiet endurance that exposed arrogance and rewrote command through example. At the parade field, a company drills in unison. Their cadence rolls across the concrete like low thunder discipline. Repetition, unity. She watches for a moment, then walks on, her stride measured and certain. The investigation is over, the judgment rendered, the lesson complete. But for Elise, justice isn't about punishment. It's about preservation of standard, of dignity, of what the uniform is supposed to mean. As the wind moves across the field, she adjusts her cover against the light. Her reflection flashes briefly in the barracks window, calm, centered, resolute. The hum of the projector is gone now. Only the echo of its truth remains. 1800 hours. The combative's bay glows in the amber light of early evening. Sunlight cuts through the high windows in long, quiet beams, falling across the mats like faded banners. The sound of gloves striking a heavy bag breaks the silence in steady rhythm, a heartbeat against the walls. Captain Elise Ward stands alone. Each movement is deliberate, almost ceremonial. Jab, pivot, exhale, reset. The cadence is slow, not for strength but for focus. The bruise that once marked her cheek has nearly vanished, replaced by a faint trace, a reminder rather than a wound. The air smells of salt drifting inland from the Pacific. Beyond the bay, the low rumble of engines fades into distance. The base moves on drills complete, formations dismissed, the day's orders fulfilled. But inside this room, time feels slower, suspended in the hum of fluorescent lights and the echo of discipline. She finishes her set, removes her gloves, and hangs them neatly on the rack. Her towel folds into perfect thirds, her water bottle capped and centered. Every motion carries the same precision. She teaches the small rituals that keep chaos from creeping in. Her breathing evens. Her reflection stares back from the plexiglass window, still, unshaken, defined not by what was fought, but by what was endured. The bay looks different now. The tension that once lived in its corners has dissolved into purpose. Recruits train here with quiet respect, movements measured, eyes focused. The walls hold memory but no bitterness. Control has replaced competition, and in that control, something resembling pride has taken root. The door opens softly. A young Marine steps inside, uniform creased, gloves tucked beneath one arm. His posture is careful, respectful, without intrusion. He hesitates before approaching, sensing that this space, in this hour, carries a kind of gravity. Elise turns, just enough to acknowledge him. No words pass between them. He nods once, the simple, silent gesture of someone who has learned from observation rather than instruction. The kind of salute reserved for those who lead without needing to command. She returns the nod, faint but full of meaning. The recruit lingers for a heartbeat, then moves toward the far mat, starting his own rhythm light, measured strikes, controlled breath. She watches for a moment, then steps aside, giving the room back to the next generation. The hum of the ventilation system fills the space. Outside, gulls pass overhead, their shadows flickering across the floor. The scent of the sea mixes with faint traces of sweat and disinfectant, the eternal atmosphere of training, persistence, repetition. For Elise, the quiet feels earned, not the silence of suppression, but the kind that follows resolution. It is the exhale after tension, the sound of a space returned to balance. She moves to the bench along the wall, where her utility blouse rests folded. From its pocket, she removes a single challenge coin, small, heavy, its edge worn smooth by time. The insignia catches the last light of day, an eagle, globe, and anchor. On the reverse, an inscription faintly etched. Honor is measured in moments no one sees. The coin turns once between her fingers, glinting in motion. In that reflection, she sees not just herself, but the sequence of quiet wars fought and won, some in deserts, some within walls like these, the unseen battles that forge character more than victory. The recruit's strikes continue in rhythm behind her, disciplined, deliberate. She recognizes the cadence of learning, the echo of her own lessons carried forward. It's not triumph that fills her chest, but a soft gravity, the awareness that endurance leaves its mark without demanding acknowledgement. She slips the coin back into her pocket. Its weight is grounding, not symbolic. The light fades gradually. The mats glow orange, then gold, then gray as the sun lowers past the horizon. The bay grows dim, the hum of the lights deepening into a steady tone. Elise takes one final look around the clean order of the space, the calm within it, and nods once, as if confirming something only she can feel. Outside, the air is cooler now. The wind carries the faint clang of distant flagpoles and the scent of cut grass from the parade field. The base is quiet. Evening watch. Changing hands. She walks across the concrete, her boots striking in even rhythm. Each step measured. Each echo earned. In the distance, the horizon glows faintly pink over the Pacific, the last light reflecting off the ocean in slow waves. It feels like a benediction, not celebration, not closure, but continuation. For Captain Elise Ward, there is no speech, no commendation, only the understanding that integrity, once proven, does not fade. It becomes part of the structure invisible, but load-bearing. At the end of the walkway, she pauses. The flag ripples faintly in the onshore breeze. She removes her cover briefly, letting the wind brush across her face. The day's warmth has gone, leaving only cool air and a sense of completion. She replaces her cover, squares her shoulders, and walks on, her pace steady. Her silhouette framed by the dim light from the bay windows behind her, a single figure leaving the field of battle long after the fighting has stopped. The camera holds on that stillness, the rhythm of her stride, the slow fade of light, the sound of waves breaking beyond the base fence. Some wars end with medals, others end in silence. But the ones fought for respect, those echo the longest. What stays with you isn't the noise, it's the silence after it, the kind that follows the last command, when the dust settles and the world finally exhales. You start replaying every sound, the rotor wash, the breath before impact, the heartbeat you mistook for gunfire until you realize the mission was never just out there. It was inside you, testing what stayed steady when everything else broke apart. Sometimes survival isn't about luck or rank. It's about restraint holding the line when ego wants to speak first. Tell me what you took from this one. I read them all. If this reminded you that control is its own kind of courage, you know what to do. Subscribe. Stay with the team. And keep your edge. Share it with someone who understands that silence is earned. The field's clear now. But the next decision, that one's already on its way.